Hi guys, Rich from Fit for Life here, just introducing you to the exercise component of the online nutrition course. So today is the first one. It's going to take a few minutes and I'm just going to be talking about movement platforms, understanding your body before you start to move. So we're going to do three different parts. The first part is the ankles, so we're going to work our way up from the ground. The ankles and the feet, and checking mobility. We're then going to do the hips, checking their mobility, and then checking the ribs. These are the three key movement platforms that need to be functioning well before you do some exercise, because there may be restrictions or there may be issues that will prevent you from making that exercise really effective. So let's start with the ankles. Come over with me now to the wall and I'll show you how to test how your ankles are, how their mobility is, and if there's any restrictions. So here we go. So let's have a look at those ankles. So what you're going to do is find a wall and you're going to get as close to the wall that 4 fingers from your hand separate your toes from the skirting board. So if you come down here and have a look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my 4 fingers there and I want my toes to line up with this finger here. So 4 fingers off the skirting board, okay? So that means that they've got to be about there. So I'm going to line my toes up. And what I'm going to do is try and get my knees to the wall without my heels lifting off. So here we go. So coming into the wall, coming down, coming down, coming down. Yep, there we are. They're touching and they're hitting at the same time. So that tells me that my ankles have got enough range of movement, that my heels aren't lifting off, that I can do some squats, I can do some lunges, some lower body stuff that will function properly. Okay, so we've looked at the ankles and we've had a look to see how much range of movement those ankles have got. We haven't done anything about fixing problems if there is a restriction. We'll come to that in a minute. The next part of the body, as I said, we're working our way from the ground up, hips. I'm going to drop into a deep squat. So you may not have straps like this at home, so you may have an anchor point or something vertical. So I won't use these in case that not everybody has them. I'm going to use something like this, which is just an upright. And you've probably got a door frame or something similar that you can use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower myself down, 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 holding onto the anchor point so I don't roll backwards. And what I'm doing is I'm just checking my hips. Can I get into this position? Is this comfortable? I'm not going to ask you to do squats this deep when you come to do the exercise, but this just tells you and me whether those hips are comfortable in this position and if there's any dysfunction in those hips. Now, when we get into mobility work, you can do a little bit of rolling side to side. So I'm keeping my feet on the ground, but I'm throwing my knees parallel side to side, just checking to see if there's any discomfort or any problems with those hips. Everything's feeling pretty good today on both sides, so I would say those hips are good to go. And the third one is the ribs or the thoracic spine. We'll get into that next. The last part is the thoracic spine. So this is where the rotation comes from in our body, the middle part of our spine where the ribs attach to the vertebrae. So the first thing to do is just check, a little bit like our ankle test, this is the rib test. So you're going to sit straight, cross your hands, you're going to turn to the left without forcing it, just go as far as you comfortably can. You're going to turn to the right, out, and I've got something out. I've got a restriction to the right, that hurts going, I can't go past there, whereas the left I can go way further. So that tells me there's something going on, I've got a restriction to the right. Now, you may have the same thing, and when the next thing we're going to do is try and mobilize that spine so that it's nice and free, both left and right. That comes next. Okay, so I'm going to try and improve that mobility through my thoracic spine, through the ribs of my spine, where the ribs and spine meet, and this is called side-lying rotation. So I've got my hips stacked on top of each other, I've got my shoulders stacked on top of each other, my arms are out the front, and I'm just going to slide my top arm across over to this side, following my hand with my eyes, and I'm going to bring it back. And this needs to be repeated a few times, like so. Now this is improving my rotation to the left or increasing the mobilization. What I'm checking is this shoulder touching the ground without my hips moving? And it is, so the mobility there is okay. Now when I did the test on the bench, I had a problem to the right, so we'll do that next. Okay, so we're going to do the other side now. Same drill, hips stacked on hips, shoulders stacked on shoulders. This is my right rotation that I was actually restricted in. And I'm going to slide this hand across. I can already feel some discomfort over to here, making sure my hips don't go. Hand is there. Now, if I try and get that shoulder blade onto the ground, my hips are starting to move. So I've got some restriction on this side. I've got to repeat this a few times to try and get that spine mobilized so that I've got a better range of movement to the right, and already it's starting to free up and it feels less painful. I feel like I've got a little tweak of a muscle somewhere in my spine. So I would repeat that for a few times, 10 to 15, and then we'll go back and do the test back on the bench and see whether that's improved. So this is the retest of that range of movement through the ribs. Let's have another go. So to the left, yeah, pretty good. To the right, still a little bit sticky. I've got some discomfort at the end of the range. Previously, I had discomfort before I got to the end of the range, so I reckon that's improved to the right. I reckon I'm ready to go. So that means that my ankles are good, that means my hips are good, that means my ribs are pretty good, not 100%, but good enough. So that means I'm now ready to do some of the stuff that I'm going to teach you in the next video.